This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're about to watch the podcast interview that I did with Bob Cranmer. And if anybody doesn't know who Bob Cranmer is, he's the author of The Demon of Brownsville Road. Now, what is very interesting about this book and what is very interesting about this interview is that Bob Cranmer and his family went through a very real demonic infestation in their home in Brownsville Road. Now, whether you believe in demons or not doesn't really matter. And there will be many people that will say that the history of the house is different, or they had never experienced that being in the house, like the cleaner or people that had lived there before. One of the things that I think is very important to understand is that some people are more susceptible to spiritual influence than others. Some people won't actually experience anything. But if there's an intelligent will behind an evil force that targets the people within that environment, whether it came with them, whether it came from the land, whether it came from the house, whether it came from conjuring, or any other manifestation of evil that is there, the reality is that the intelligent force, or the intelligence and the will behind that malevolent force can obviously choose its victims and, make its presence known to those victims. And maybe, just maybe, that is a plausible explanation of why other people don't experience it. There's been many haunting cases over the years in many different places, and whilst we mustn't just take everything on face value, we have to have evidence, and we have to look at logic, and we have to look, from a parapsychology side of things. We can't just believe anything. We can't just believe in orbs. We can't just believe in just anybody that is communicating with us from the other side, or loved ones, or anything like that, because inevitably we don't know half the time who we're communicating with. So watch the video, make your own mind up, but also be aware of this: that family went through a lot of suffering. People in the right mind who have gone through a lot of suffering don't necessarily just want to promote that all over the place. Bob and his wife lost their son. And that is the hardest thing for anybody to go through, is to lose their son. Many people out there will speculate that it was at the hands of a demonic intelligence, or that it may have been that there was psychological problems within the son. The truth is, we don't really know, and we don't have proof. But in Bob's heart of hearts, then maybe he has got someone, maybe he's got a force that he can blame. The very fact that he has come through this, the very fact that his family have suffered in many ways, including those in the immediate environment, is a testament to Bob's faith and his family to be able to overcome this adversity. And I don't think they'll ever overcome it. But just remember, when you watch this video and you hear Bob and I having a laugh and seeing a funny side of things, there's a very real underlying tone of suffering to this case. It is not about a man who just wrote a book to make money. I don't believe he's like that. I've got to know Bob over the last while that we've been communicating, and I feel the genuineness from him. The very fact the Catholic Church got involved tells you something. It's not just about scaremongering. There's a message here to be heard. And whether you believe in it or not doesn't matter, because evil forces believe in you. That's why they will target you if you are unfortunate to come across it. But it's very rare. It's incredibly rare, ladies and gentlemen. It's not something that is out there, all the time. Paranormal teams, don't go into houses and, hey, there's a demon here, we've caught them on camera. There has been no scientific evidence to date, and we probably will never get scientific evidence of it. So, enjoy the interview, but be respectful and understand that this is a family who have suffered a great deal, and understand that there has been loss through this, and take what you can from it. God bless, ladies and gentlemen, and enjoy the Demon of Brownsville Road. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jock. I am an author. I am the editor of Paranormal Daily News, and I am welcoming a guest that we're bringing on to Deadly Departed this evening, and I don't actually normally interview a lot of guests, is Bob Cranmer. Now, if any of you guys think that you have dabbled in demonology or you have actually experienced demons, then you want to listen to this story and read the book. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the Demon of Brownsville Road. You've read the book. I know that I've listened to it many times. I listen to it when I'm driving, and now my wife is banning me doing it because she wants to listen to something that's it's a bit funnier and not so scary. But really, this puts down on paper real experiences of a demoniacal infestation, if you like. I won't say possession as such at the moment, but demoniacal infestation that has actually affected Bob and his family over the years, and I am delighted to bring him on to Deadly Departed and to in association with Paranormal Daily News to talk to him about his experiences and to ask him questions and to just to chat about these experiences. And you can make up your own mind whether you believe it or not, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And let me tell you something as well. It doesn't matter if you believe in demons, ladies and gentlemen, because they believe in you and they don't need your permission to believe in them or not. So welcome to Deadly Departed, Bob Cranmer. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm happy to be on, and certainly have enjoyed the short time that I've had the opportunity to get to know you a little bit through email and over the phone, and you were kind enough to send me your book, so I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. And as I said at the beginning, Bob, there's not many people that I will reach out to interview. I mean, I only really interview people that are recommended as scientifically, that are, researchers and professional people, rather than your normal everyday kind of ghost hunter project entertainment show that's out there. Now, just in your own, on your own words, you have got an amazing background. You're a military man like myself. You have served time in government. You're the author of the book. Tell everybody a little bit about your background.
Well, I can say, first off, that this subject and this whole world of demonology, the paranormal, is not anything I was ever interested in or ever looked to be involved in whatsoever, let alone writing a best-selling book and having possibly, it looks like, having a movie made about it. This was somewhat thrust upon me, and I had to deal with it as it came on, and I dealt with it in my own way. Dealt with it like a military officer, I believe, would, and it was harrowing. It was terrifying at times. But it was a real learning experience. It was a religious experience for me. It transformed my religious faith It transformed my view of life. And I think I wrote the book in a way, the purpose I wrote the book are because of those specific things that people need to understand. That, you know, people want to believe in everything. They want to believe in global warming, and they want to believe in you know, whatever the latest fad is. They want to believe and have faith in things. And God is left at the roadside many times, especially now. I mean, young kids don't go to church anymore. Their parents don't go to church. Maybe their grandparents went to church. So they have no concept. And it's really going to get bad, because what we learned and what was taught in morals and right and wrong, that's going to be lost. Things that we've taken for granted for hundreds of years in this country is going to be lost. So I wrote this book because so many young people are looking for something. They know there's more than the physical. They know there's something spiritual. So they're reaching out to this whole genre of the paranormal, and it interests them. Well, if they read my book, it's different, because they're going to find the true story. They're going to find God, and they're going to find God at the heart of it, and they're going to find the devil. And believe me, the devil and God and his demons and God's angels are all real, and as real as they're described in the Bible. So that was my purpose. This book has become somewhat of a ministry to me, to bring God to the masses, hopefully, and to do it through this experience that my family and I went through.
Now, there's a lot of people, Bob, that will turn around and say that people that have really bad haunting experiences or possible demoniacal infestations, and I want to point out, and we've talked about this before, that demoniacal possession, ladies and gentlemen, is incredibly rare, and 90% or even more of it that you see on the TV with demons and things, it's not real, because essentially when you deal with demoniacal intelligence or malevolent intelligence that has will, that has discernment, that understands it, it's not lurking around every corner in a haunted home or a potential haunted home, and everybody deals with.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that will say that if you're an atheist or you don't believe in God, that you don't need to worry because you will never have these experiences. But you and I know that that's not true. But did you come at this, because reading your book, yes, it's a very life-changing aspect to you, but it seemed you went through so many changes in your religious experience, you know, from dealing with pastors and the Catholic Church and everything else. Would you say, when people say to you that this was brought onto you because of your religious experience or your religious belief system, or you just happened to be the target at the time?
I think there was a certain amount of divine providence involved with me and the situation and the house. I think I was meant to go there and to fight this battle. I think I was prepared for it from my youth. I think my personality, my training in the military, my religious background, which changed, as you said, significantly. Even my political persona, which was very significant, played a role in the credibility that I brought along with the book, so that people who knew me and knew what I had accomplished in a very credible manner as a politician. I mean, I built a couple, Major League Baseball stadium, Major League Football stadium, a giant convention center. I mean, did some pretty big stuff. Transformed the city of Pittsburgh. So I come out with this book out of the blue. I wasn't known for any of this. But yet the Catholic Diocese of Pittsburgh went public with the story like, I think 7 or 8 months before the publisher released it, because they were involved in it and wanted to get ahead of it. The bishop went on to become a cardinal. So I guess, you know, your original question, how it changed me, and continues to change me, and how my life has changed for good or bad since I published the book. I mean, for goodness sakes, you know, my marriage broke up. I lost a son to suicide. It's been rough, and but nonetheless, I remain dedicated, because, you know, this was what I had to do, and I believe it was a calling from God. It was a mission. It was something I had to carry out and continue to have to carry out, because I think the story and the message of this book is so strong, and that's what makes it so compelling, about good and evil.
And I have to say, Bob, as well, for me, the initial, when I was reading it, the initial thing that I was drawn to is, it seemed that you were set up from the very beginning, because you had an unnatural attraction to that house.
I did. And again, for those who read it, and I don't want to, you know, spoiler alert, so to speak. But
I've done plenty of that, Bob.
I did write it in a way where the whole thing comes full circle. I start out with an event that took place in 1792, where there were three children and their mother were killed in the front yard of what became the front yard of the house.
Yeah.
And you don't really understand what that was all about until the very end of the book, because quite frankly, I didn't find out about any of that until long after I was writing the book. It all kind of then made sense. And, you know, I was a military intelligence officer, and I learned how to take this different facts and different items, put them together. So, I was drawn to that house, and in the epilogue, as I point out some things, I was told that I had and again, for your Christian listeners, I understand this gets people all worked up. I've learned to come to deal with it, that I had a past life experience in that house. People get all worked up about reincarnation. I did it one time too. I don't now, because I found out that all these guys that go around thumping the Bible and preaching and yelling and carrying on, telling you what you should do or don't do, they don't have all the answers.
And I have to say that you were part of that. You were what?
I was. I was right there. And when I went to that guy and I asked him for help, you know what he did? Oh, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? You know?
Yeah, I have a theory about that we'll talk about later.
I had to go to the Catholic Church that he disparaged all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, they were very businesslike. Yes, we can help you. And you know, I'm not pitting one against the other. I'm just saying, listen, this is really complicated stuff. You're talking now ghosts. Let's just talk about ghosts for a minute. You know, ghosts are not demons. Ghosts are the spirits of people who once lived, and for whatever reason, when they die, their soul stays in place. Their death is usually associated with some traumatic or some sad event, and their soul is tied to some location, whether it's a house, maybe it's a battlefield like Gettysburg.
Yeah.
I mean, you go in Gettysburg some evening in the summer at 10 o'clock when it's dark, take your phone and take a bunch of pictures of the Black Knight, and 5 or 6 of them will show apparitions on them.
Yeah.
So haunted houses and ghosts are relatively common. Demonic infestations, because a demon is not a ghost. A demon is an angel that was cast out of heaven. 1/3 of the angels were cast out with Lucifer. They're powerful, supernatural beings, and they were cast down to the earth. to make this an evil place. And all evil emanates from the devil because he's a liar and the father of lies. So you have this battle. It's kind of like the movie The Matrix. There's a whole unseen world around us that we can't see. I think animals can see it. I mean, why?
I would agree with you. Animals are very attuned to it.
I think there's something in the wiring of our minds that don't let us see things. Why? You know, I just last weekend I went to a place called Jumonville Glen in the Laurel Highlands of Pennsylvania. It's where the French and Indian War started, and George Washington was there. And there were French soldiers that were butchered by Indians, and it's a long story. But anyway, it was 10 o'clock at night, and just for the heck of it, we took the camera and took a bunch of pictures. Now, right in front of me were all these orbs and things. You can't see them with your eyes, but nonetheless, the camera can see them. You know, why and how is that possible? And it's no reflections. It's not the moon. There are hundreds of them. It's amazing. So the spiritual realm is around us. We're spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings. And the whole reincarnation thing, I think, is completely compatible with Christianity. One of the earliest church fathers, his name was Origen. That was part of his teaching. And for various reasons, the early church cut it out. And but anyway, I don't even know how I got on this subject, other than the fact that it was said that I had a past life experience in that house.
And I think it's important to note as well, Bob, that when you mention, you know, demons being of an angelic nature, you know, according to Dionysus, where we've broken down the various levels of them, the important thing is that they're an intelligence that's beyond us. They know more than we will ever know, and they can interact easier because of who they are or you know, the powers they have. But the important, I mean, coming from the intelligence background that you have, is they are an intelligent force that has will and that has discernment. I want to take you back to when you first started to go into the house, because when you first got the house and you had this attraction to the home and you took over the house, you never in a million years, obviously, you never ever thought anything like this would happen. So explain to people how, I mean, it didn't just matter, you didn't just go in there and bang, you had phenomena straight away. How did this actually happen? How did everything start to gradually build up?
Well, you know, we kind of did have something right away. In fact, something happened the day that we were, I think it was either the day we bought the house or a day soon thereafter, where we went back to just inspect things in more detail and, you know, lay plans down for what little furniture we had, where we would put it, and so on. My wife and I and our 4-year-old daughter and our 3-year-old son, we had 4 children at the time, and they were our oldest, went as well. And we were in the basement, I recall, looking at the furnace, which was one of the first gas furnaces back from the late 1940s. You know, it was so big. I always joke when I turned it on in the fall, I had to let the gas company know because the pressure would go down in their lines. and they had to lay people off in the spring. But so we're down there looking at the furnace, and just another thing I had to replace. And my wife turned and said, "Where's Bobby?" Bobby was my son. He's on the front cover of the book.
Yeah.
And he's the one that was really impacted by this the most, as far as my children go. And so we didn't know where he was. So my wife and the lady of the house decided to, you know, they go back upstairs to find him. It wasn't like you could just call up the steps. It's a big cavernous house. You know, they had to go up through the kitchen and the dining room into the foyer. And they found him on this staircase which went halfway up, and there was a landing that reversed back and then went up to the balcony on the second floor. And he was standing on the landing halfway up, shaking. And the woman rushed up to him and said, "Oh, honey, what's wrong? Did you see something?" Now, right away, my wife figures, "What are you talking? What kind of comment is that? Did you see something?" Because she felt creepy about the house to begin with. She had that gut feeling.
She had that intuition feeling, yeah.
There was something not right. So she told me afterwards what this woman had said. She said, "You know what? This house is too big. It's going to cost too much money to get it where it needs to be. And it gives me the creeps. I just don't like it. It doesn't feel welcoming. You know, it feels like it's sucking us in. You know, it's like some kind of Venus flytrap thing. I don't feel good here." But for me, it was a dream come true. I'm in this house. I'm telling you, this is a place I always wanted to be in my life. Couldn't believe it. I was finally in the house, and I made an offer, $20,000 less, and the guy took it right away. I couldn't believe it. Yep, sold. He was that anxious to get away.
Do you think you were already being influenced at that time? Because I know if I made a decision against my wife, she would kill me. I said, "Joe, I've just put an offer in this house and she didn't like it."
Yeah,
and you were influenced?
She said that to me more than once as we moved, drove in the driveway, and the big, it's a big house with stone and cedar shake. And she said, "It just looks like it's laughing at us. I just don't like it." And I said, "Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. We'll make it our home. It'll be fine." Little did I know what was in store for us in the next, even the coming weeks, because it would start right away. And she talked to me about it so many times. I finally had to ask the man. I said, "Listen, Jim." His name was Jim. He went by Seamus. He was an Irish guy. And I said, "Is there anything wrong with this house?" Now, you would think that he would have asked me to clarify. "What do you mean by wrong? The roof, or the heater, or what? The windows?" No, he said right away, "Oh, don't worry. We've had mass in the living room twice." Which to me, I thought was a strange answer, because mass isn't ever celebrated in house. It's not in a house. It's not something that you take on the road.
No.
They'll come to your house and give you communion, yes.
Yeah.
But they don't celebrate mass in your house. That's not done. But nonetheless, they had there, and years later, I would understand when we would have mass, and all 4 floors of the house, including the basement, including the attic.
No, I remember that in the book, actually. Yeah.
We had mass in almost every room of the house at different times, because that was a weapon that we used.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, absolutely.
So it began pretty much right away, and but initially
what made you continue? Because let's face it, anybody that goes into something like that and that starts happening, you would be thinking about making different decisions.
Well, I thought, we had this situation with the pull chain on the light.
Yeah.
And how the chain would wrap around the top of the light, and I'd untwist it and go back again, and it would be wrapped around the top of the light again. Finally, my wife and I looked at it, we hung it straight, closed the door. Nobody goes in this closet. I get home from work. Excuse me. We go in, it's wrapped around the top of the light, and that light was probably 6 feet from the floor. So none of the kids, our oldest was 4 years old, was able to mess with the light nor get in a closet like that. So we knew right then and there's some kind of spirit in the house. And then more things began to happen, but none of it seemed to be malevolent. None of it seemed to be real threatening. It was a curiosity. And, do
you think you encouraged it because it was kind of, you were curious and these things were happening?
I kind of think it knew I was coming. I think
Yeah, you were set up.
coming.
Yeah.
And it was just, I had no idea that over the next 10 years that it would slowly, surreptitiously go to work on my family mentally and in different ways. And things would happen that I thought was just natural, family problems, but was really being perpetrated by living with a demon in your house. Because years later, when it all hit the fan, so to speak, it began to make more sense. When things start flying through the air past your head and smashing on the wall, then hey, this is dangerous. I think
Yeah.
I got to call. Who you going to call? I got to call somebody. And at that point in time, there were no paranormal research, groups, and every little town has its paranormal research cleansers or group. And
listen, I said the other day, Bob, you walk down the road and you meet. It used to be years ago. You would have to ask someone to ask someone to ask someone to find a medium. All you need to do now is walk down the street and everybody's one.
Oh yeah.
It's the same in the paranormal. Everybody's a paranormal team. So I mean, yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
I would say that the group that came and helped us with the church, and the church really invited them, and they invited them somewhat in the preparation for a formal exorcism of a person. You have doctors examine the person to ensure that what's happening is beyond explanation.
Yeah.
It's really something.
There has to be scientific evidence of it.
Yeah. So they wanted a group to come in and document what was happening in the house. But yes, there was crazy stuff happening. So there was this Paranormal Research Society group at Pennsylvania, at Penn State University, and it was headed by a young man named Ryan Buell. Ryan was the guy that went on to have the famous television show Paranormal State, became, kind of like a cult icon for a while, and had his own issues. But I would say when they came to our house, it was a watershed event. I mean, there were some of them that came, there were 10 of them that came initially, and a couple of them left the next day. And they came.
I remember that in the book, actually.
Yeah. And they really did get under this thing's skin. I mean, we cut in the wall, we got into its lair, we did some pretty dramatic things. But finally, the church said, you know what, they've kind of fulfilled their purpose, and it's dangerous for them to be involved here at this point. And even Ryan, I spoke to him many times after that, and he attributes what happened in our house for kind of, there was something that followed him and kind of messed him up.
Oh, absolutely. I've got no doubt about it. Let me just ask, I'm going to jump back a little bit, because we've talked about, you have labeled this as a demon, or Ryan or the church has labeled it as a demon. But how did you get to that particular point that this is demonic, other than this is, maybe grounded spirits, etc., that is there? How did you get to that point by this is demonic? Because a lot of the phenomena that you're talking about can also be attributed to just paranormal physical phenomena that happens due to spiritual energy or residual energy or anything like that. But how did you come down to that? How did you label it? How did you get to that point?
Well, I would say that, and at the time I didn't understand that there was a, what did she call herself? A intuitive, working with the diocese, a seer. And she was amazing. The information she gave us on the house. And I worked diligently to, I bet you I verified 90% of what she told me. Things that had happened decades and decades ago. I mean, she would tell me, what color the wallpaper was in different rooms, and the layout of the house and the furniture. And, in this corner is a little a stand with a vase on it that belonged to your mother. I mean, just amazing. And I'm just, and I didn't know the information that was being passed on to me was passed on to me through the lead priest. So I didn't know where it was. I thought it was coming from him.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's the one who initially said, this is demonic. This is a demonic entity. And I'll never forget when I was told, I thought that they would come to the house, kind of like calling the exterminator, you know, maybe
pest control,
come a couple times and gas the place, you know, but I thought they'd come, you know, 1, 2, 3 times and it would be done. And he said to me, in a year, this demon is so powerful. In a year, we'll know if we're making progress. It was kind of like in the Matrix, the red pill or the blue pill. You can take your family and move, sell the house to somebody else. Hopefully, they won't have the issues with it. Maybe you sparked this activity some way. Or you can stay and we'll stand with you and we can fight. But if we do that, it will be a year before we know if we're making progress. And there are certain things that demons do, certain characteristics, signs that they have, rules that they seem to operate under, because certainly they would kill you if they could. You know, they'll make their presence known in various ways. Ours did most commonly through a horrific stench that it localized smell that it put off. So you would know when you were with the thing, when it was in front of you, because you could smell it.
Yeah.
Move a couple feet away and it wasn't, you couldn't smell it. But when it was right next to you, it was some powerful bad breath, to say the least. You know?
But you know, here's the thing I've always maintained is that when you're dealing with a malevolent intelligence like this, is demoniacal, that really the battlefield is the battlefield is your mind, and that's essentially what the main target is trying to break you down.
Oh yeah, it's a matter of endurance and just it's just consistent. It wants to break you down. It wants to break your spirit. And I can say that for the first year, it had its way. It wanted to scare you. It wanted to freak us out. And we moved furniture out of different rooms. We couldn't use it. But, you know, once we got to the point that we understood that laughing at it, and also other things I could do to make its existence unbearable as well. And I gave it as much of it as I could, like saying the rosary, and I mentioned in the book the Passion of the Christ movie, played for 6 months nonstop.
I remember that nonstop. Yeah.
On loop. Couldn't stand that movie. Would turn off the player. Would turn off the TV. Would take learned how to take the video out of the. Never broke it, which was interesting. We had it playing on 2 separate DVDs at one point. Powerful representation in that movie. No wonder I don't think Mel Gibson was prepared for the blowback from that.
No.
Anyway, we were dealing with a demonic entity, and you know, when the blood on the walls started, then it started to cover the walls. Started on the 3rd floor, down all the way to the 1st floor. Systematically cover the walls with dripping blood. Now, it wasn't real blood, but boy, it looked just like.
And that's actually that's a question that a colleague of mine, Amanda, had said, because and we spoke about this, and she wanted to know that, and I have my theory about it, but why wasn't it real blood, and why was that a mixture.
Yeah,
Not
you know,
blood.
you know, again, how these things operate, and you know, where it got. I had I had this stuff examined twice,
Yeah.
two laboratories. The first one was able to tell me, one, it was nothing natural, like it wasn't mold,
Yeah.
it wasn't mildew. It had been applied there, and but they did in fact find skin cells
Yeah, I
mixed.
know. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And then I had it analyzed by another lab a second time, and it was just a mixture of different concoctions. Like it had like carbohydrates in it, and chemicals that you would find like in cleaning fluid. Um, it made no rhyme or reason why this stuff was mixed together, but the stuff on the walls looked just like blood red. When it was on the floor, initially it looked like blood, and then the
Yeah.
stuff on the floor in the bathroom, then it became orange in color, like a like a melted creamsicle. But nonetheless, it would be there every day. We had to clean that stuff up.
And then it came back. And
Yeah.
you checked as well for any other scientific possibility that could have, because I guess, Bob, you would have loved to have said, okay, this is not, you know, this is not right. This is not blood or anything else. Here's the scientific reason. There's a leak in the roof or something. I guess at one point that's, you know, hopefully that's what you were looking for. You know, because you don't want to say, well, this is demon.
It was all over the house. You know? It was all over the house. I started on the third floor. I have pictures of it. I
saw the pictures.
Yeah. And okay, so when it came to the bedroom, this is an interesting fact. It liked to mess in my bedroom at night when I was sleeping. You know, I'd wake up in the morning and I would have left change on the nightstand or on my dresser. I'd wake up in the morning and all the coins would be standing on end.
Yeah, not in a pile, but actually on end. Yeah.
On end. I woke up one night in the middle of the night. I was completely turned around in bed. My feet were on the pillows. My head was at the base of the bed, and I never got out of bed. The lamp beside my side of the bed, you know, a lampshade, many times, there's an inner shade and an outer shade.
All right, yeah.
Two pieces of material. The blood was on the inside of the lampshade, on the inner piece of material, on the inside, not the outside. Why, I don't know, but it wanted to let me know I put this there. And then, you know, one day I came home.
It's all intelligence. You know what I mean? It's all, to me, my theory was, and I spoke about this today with my colleague Amanda, and my theory was it is it's warfare. It's basically intel. And what it's psychological warfare. That's what it's doing.
So I go upstairs and, you know, I worked for an engineering company at the time, and we had to wear a suit and tie to work every day, and white shirt and a suit. So I had a clothes tree in my room. I had a dressing room on the third floor. I kept my suits up there, and I'd take off my white shirt and put it on the clothes tree, and I'd collect them for the week and then take them to the cleaners to get repressed. And I went in, and it was one evening after dinner. There's a big streak of this red stuff down the back of one of my shirts. And I looked at
that's a sign, isn't it?
And I said, you know, I just looked, I looked over like I was looking. I said, what did you do that for? I said, the wall's one thing. I can wipe that off the wallpaper. What you put that on my shirt for? I said, first of all, I'm not impressed at all. I'm not impressed. And two, you got to understand, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. You can do that all you want. You are going to leave. And, you know, I always would talk to and preface it with the power of Jesus Christ, you're going to leave. But if I could demonstrate to it that it wasn't getting under my skin anymore, it wasn't having the effect it had before, It would just do crazy little things. I remember one time, that third floor was like a refuge for me. I had a desk up there, and I can recall one time I was going through a box, and I came across a little picture of me, like from third grade, in my Cub Scout uniform. And I said, "Oh, isn't that nice?" I set it on the desk. I came back up a little later, and that picture, it was gone, and I found it in the bathroom in the trash can.
See,
Trash can.
and meanwhile, see, it seems to be that you seem to be the target of psychological warfare, but also we've got to talk about your family were suffering as well. I mean, they were really feeling it.
Oh, three of them were in psychiatric. My wife, when she was 34 years old, suffered a complete nervous breakdown. It's when we moved into this particular, we call it the Blue Room.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that next, actually, the Blue Room.
Place. And it affected.
Your son was affected in there, wasn't he?
He was affected deeply.
Badly.
And she ended up in a psychiatric ward for several weeks, and then had to go through counseling and medication. And two of my other sons ended up in psychiatric hospitals as well. And it really had a dramatic impact.
And a lot of people say, and a lot of people have asked, when I've recommended the book and said, you need to study this, study Deadly Departed and then go read Bob's book. And I've said, I mean, you did make mistakes as well. I mean, you brought your daughter back. You brought back to the family when they wanted to leave and stuff. I mean, I think you admitted it at one point in an interview that you might have done things a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't have kept the kids in the house through all that insanity.
Everybody asked that. Why did they keep the kids there? I mean, that's the hard question.
I did it at the time. I was hard-headed, and I just thought, I'm fighting this battle. This is my house. It's my home. We're not going to retreat 1 inch. But
that's the soldier in you.
Yeah.
And you see that's the soldier in you. And I think at times people don't realize when you get that military head on, you tend to forget the surroundings around you, the environment.
The other people, sure. Yeah, I know. Even when I was in politics and local politics in my community, and I talk about this somewhat in the book. I mean, the town, I believe, was affected deeply too, as well, by what took place in the.
Because you were shunned as well, weren't you? You were shunned by the town, big time.
My kids, I could do it, I could take it, but my kids had to pay for it at school.
That must be really hard. So when, here's the thing. A lot of people, and you read, no matter what industry we're in, there's always going to be the negative side, the positive side. We always get attacked for what we believe in or what we do or anything else. But a lot of people have said, Bob did this book, sensational book. He was a pastor. He worked, this was a whole big money-making thing. But at the end of the day, what people don't realize is the suffering that not only you went through, but the suffering that your family went through, to the point, and I didn't want to bring this up, but you lost your son to suicide. And I'm not going to go into that. But do you think that maybe there was an influence there, an evil influence that compounded that as well?
I think no question. No question. And I
mean, you're still haunted to this day, really.
Yeah, I am. I'm living in the house by myself. People talk about making all kind of money. Well, let me tell you, your house is your biggest investment. Whoever's listening and believes that. Your house is your biggest investment. Why would you write a book that makes your biggest investment kind of worthless? Who wants to buy a house with problems like that? Who's going to line up to buy it? So that's why I'm turning it into a bed and breakfast to try to, at least it can make money to pay the taxes and so on.
And here's the other question that I got, right? That please ask Bob this. That why on earth are you, and you can just, I'm going to just come out with it. Why on earth are you turning that into a bed and breakfast place when there was apparently, clearly, a demoniacal infestation that destroyed your family, that basically turned your life upside down. Surely you wouldn't. I mean, there's a danger there. Is there a danger it could set up again? It's always you're always going to be the target.
My only concern is that if we get some people to come in there because of its history, and I don't know how I'm going to deal with it, some way. They don't come in there and start bringing Ouija boards in and doing their spiritual stuff in the house. The house is clean. The house is exercised. I mean, my grandkids stay there. My grandkids play there. They run around. They spend the night there. I watch.
You're always
I know what the house did to my kids when they were little. And I don't see any of that now. The house, we won the battle.
Are you now 100% happy that it's clean?
Yes. We won the battle. We won the battle. The demonic stuff is gone. It's gone. Now the other stuff that took place in the house, the abortions and so on, and spirits and little kids that died in there. I don't think it's evil. I think that probably lingers. We've had enough prayers. I go through. I haven't done this. I think the last time I did this was a year ago, last Easter. So it's been well over a year. I have a cleansing ritual that I go through.
Yeah.
The whole house takes several hours to do it. I should do it now again, and I do that kind of as preventative maintenance, just to make sure that's that. But I have no problem with people coming to the house and staying in the house. We had a cleaning lady in our house for years who came on a regular basis to clean. She was in the house on a regular basis by herself, and she said she had no idea of anything. In the book, she goes, I never experienced one thing. All the years I worked in your house, nothing ever. So I'm convinced it's fine.
Do you think that certain people are more susceptible to paranormal type phenomena than others?
I think some people are more sensitive to it. Yes. Do they cause it? No, but I think they can be more aware of it than others, and they can feel it. I'm like that now.
And I think there's an argument that says, look, if you're skeptical and you don't believe in any of this, then you're never going to experience it. But I know from not just my experience, but being caught, I do know of skeptics that have had experienced things and have said, I don't believe in this, Jock, and I just witnessed this. So anybody who's listening, it doesn't tie down to just whether you're skeptical or not, or whether you're religious. I mean, I'll go back to the religious thing. Do you think if you weren't religious, that this would still have happened?
Well, it still would have existed. I don't believe, if I was not religious and didn't have faith, I think I would have left. I think I would have packed up and left and gotten out of there.
But you'd still have the phenomenon that it would still be there. Yeah,
I think though it was more prominent because I was there. Did I don't know if I told the story of after the stuff started happening in the house, and my mother suggested that one of the priests from her Catholic parish come and bless the house. And he was going through blessing the house, and as he went up to my son's room, what we called the blue room.
The blue room, yeah.
All the trouble. Yeah, little 3-year-old stood and put his body across the door from George and said, "You cannot come in this room." And I was amazed, and he was something made him do that. And anyway, it was just, I think the situation was designed for me and for us. I can't speak to anybody else, but I do know that I had a very simple faith at the time that's grown a lot
And
since
it
then.
has helped a lot of people.
Yeah, it's grown a lot since then. And I will say that, for all the problems the Catholic Church has, it's at this point, there's a lot to that Catholic hocus pocus and the Catholic ritual and the learning that goes back thousands of years. There's a lot of credibility to it, and evil recognizes the authority of it, I believe.
Absolutely. Do you think you're I wonder, did we go over? No, we should be all right. Do you think that the Catholic Church was more instrumental in dealing with this? Because here's the thing, there's elements of that story, or that, the report, I want to say reports in your book, where I think the Catholic Church had failures. Because you continued on your own. Didn't you?
What?
You continued on your own, battling it. I mean, at one point, do you think the success was down to the Catholic Church or down to your faith?
Well, I mean, certainly the battle was fought by me, primarily, and my wife on a daily basis. The priest would come, maybe every 10 days. And generally what they would do when they came was just aggravate the situation more, and then we would
religious provocation.
We would deal with it. So it was kind of trench warfare. It was a consistent battle between us and it. And I'll say what changed was after that paranormal group came from Penn State, and we got a handle on it. We got an idea on, that we could affect it. We could fight back. And then we got a
You think they were the catalyst for making it worse?
I don't know if they're making it worse. I mean, that is, let's see. That's right around the same time that the blood appeared on the walls. I think the first time the blood appeared, the thing was claiming victory.
Right.
We were done. We were just about ready to give up at that point. It was like Rocky and Ivan Drago. It was done.
Like a good choice of film. That. What about your family? Did they try to push you away from it? Like, did they were like, look, Dad, look, your wife, let's go. We're done with this. This is just too bad. Do you talk about it still?
My wife did not say that. My two sons were so out of it. They were in and out of psychiatric hospitals. My daughter moved out completely, and it's kind of stayed away. And my one son, the one who was least affected by it, David, he wanted to become part of the team to fight it. He wanted to help us. It's funny. He was the only one that, when he grew up, continued to go to church and taught Sunday school and did all that stuff. And he's the one who ended up, tragically dying. I don't understand it.
What is your hope now, Bob, for the future? What are you hoping to achieve with all this now?
Well, it's been such a challenge since the whole thing ended. It was a challenge going through it. And then when I decided that I was told, my friend Tom Murphy, who was mayor of Pittsburgh, he's the one who went to the bishop to begin with. He's the one who said to me, "You got to keep notes."
Yeah, he told. I remember. Yeah, you said you got to keep the notes on it.
I keep 350 pages worth of notes over 2 years, and then when it got done, he goes, "You need to write a book. You need to write a book." Well, I never wrote a book, let alone, to get a book published by Penguin Random House. is
Yeah.
it's not an when you're like nobody in the publishing.
It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and I was able to achieve that. And then
What did your family think about that, Bob? What did they think about the whole?
the
You're
publicity.
bringing this out in a book and letting the whole world know about it. Were they supportive?
I think at first they were really kind of put off by it, but then I think they got it. And my son Bobby was a great help with me on social media in promoting the book, and Facebook page and all that stuff. And he really did a lot to help promote the book. And then the television programs then came along, and they would they were involved in those television programs, the Paranormal Witness and a haunting, or called a haunting, and there were 3 of them, and now a movie, and it's one of the major studios in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So who knows where it goes? I just think, even if it goes on after I'm deceased, nobody read Moby Dick until he died, I think.
Hey, there's a lot of people have read this book.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I really think that there's a deep social message to the book that connects with people. It makes a lot of people really angry.
Oh, I know. I see. I witnessed that. I've seen there's always going to be the skeptical and the
Really
camp, but at the end of the day, as I've always said, and I've spoke to people about this as well, is why the family's destroyed. Essentially, why would someone just sensationalize something like that?
People make a big deal. When you write a book and you have a publisher, the publisher makes the money. I guarantee you, the publisher.
Listen, I'm an author, and I will tell you, right? The publishers don't 100% make the money, and we are the ones that do our marketing. I can tell you that right now. So,
anyway, we'll see what But again, my singular purpose is to get people to read the book. I like the television programs, I like a movie, but I want people to read the book because I think it encapsulates a message that young people especially need to hear.
Well, I am a very big supporter of the book, and in fact, it's actually, I'm recommending it daily to people who communicate with me after reading my book. I'm going, right, the next book you need to read is this one. I've actually got someone in Scotland that said today, I'm terrified to read this book of Bob's. I said, listen, you got mine, you're all right, well, and you've got connection to me, you're fine, but you need to read it because you need the education, and you need to read it from not a story or a film that's been over sensationalized, but from real experience of what this and how intelligent a force like this can be.
Yeah. Well, that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. And,
listen, we're going to switch it off there because we could go on and on and on for hours. But Bob, I want to thank you for spending the time with me. I want to do this again and go even deeper with you into different things and to get the message out even more, and maybe. And the other thing is we're planning to do an event, hopefully in as I said, 2020, 21, something like that. We're doing a paranormal event, which is actually an educational event. It's not paranormal ghost stories or anything else, but you'll get to meet professionals and listen. Hopefully you'll listen to Bob, who'll come and talk about these experiences. I do know other people that have had real experiences as well. Friend of mine, Gavin, who I respect, has had some real bad experiences over in Wales. Whether you believe in demons or not, it doesn't matter. And whether you're a medium that thinks malevolent forces don't exist, it doesn't matter, because you want to pray that you never ever have to come up with it or come against it. One of the things I will say is, even though the Catholic Church doesn't believe in mediums, they do use them. Whether they call them intuitives or whether they call them anything else, they will use them.
Yeah.
And that is a big fallacy. And if you learned anything from this show, one of the things you're going to actually learn is that it was a medium that brought forth the information. And that's not me just saying, and yeah, there's a lot of bad mediumship out there, like there's bad mechanics, okay? But there is a place for this and this type of work in the service to God and humanity for a greater experience. I, for one, believe in this book. I believe in its message. I recommend it to everybody to read. And hopefully this won't be the last time that we'll get you on, Bob, and we'll talk even more about this.
That's fine. I look forward to it.
I could do this. God, I could go right into this for forever. It's a fascinating, and I think it's an important message. What's the last message that you would like to give people that are reading this or even watching this?
The last message. Well, I just, I sign every book at book signings in his name. And I write this for the glory of Jesus Christ and his cross and him crucified. And that's the message. That's the message. That's where our hope lies. That's what this book is about. This book is down and dirty, and it gets in the mud. But evil, that's where evil is. And it's not all lightness and flowers.
My last question to you before we really sign off here, Bob, is: do you regret it? What regrets do you have?
Well, I mean, I regret to an extent, a lot of things that happen as a result of all this. I mean, it's not, people go off to war. Things are unhappy. You kind of regret they happen, but you know what? You got to do some things. You got to do things. You got to do things that are put in front of you, and you got to do your duty. And that's what I did. I hope, to the best of my ability.
Well, I think your message is awesome. I'm not going to say that I'm glad you've gone through it, but I'm glad you've shared the message, and I hope many, many people read it and learn from it. And thank you for spending the time with us, Bob. I know it's not going to be the last. And guys, you can buy the book anywhere online. I recommend buying it on Audible because you can listen to it constantly when you're driving. Thank you. Thank you for spending the time, Bob. It's been awesome.
Stay in touch, please, Jock.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks to everyone that was listening. I appreciate your interest very much.
Awesome.
Okay. Bye-bye.